feel free, please, to send questions throughout. I prefer this to be much more interactive than, me just speaking. So with that, there's just some ground basics that, people, I just wanted to line up. So time management is the process of directing how much time is spent on certain activities. So curious to see, Aljalen's going to give you a little poll around, where you think you are in your time management. So if you can just take a quick 30 seconds and answer. And if Aljalen can, in a minute, show the results, we'll go on to the next definition. But I just want to get a sense of where we're all feeling where we're at. Now, the second question actually is, do you use anything for your time blocking and management? I'm very low key. I use my calendar. I can't fuss with any other technology. Some other people are really good about using project management tools, which I do for my team, but for myself, I use my calendar. Some people love different time tracking tools. So also, if you utilize any one of those, please let us know. Great. Aljalen. So a majority of the audience, you guys are feeling, okay, a little better than okay. But, we have the wide range of, everybody can improve. And I am putting my hand up now. I do not have it perfect, right? Because you also evolve and shift and have what they considered hybrid times. So I was just telling Aljalen earlier today that I've managed to shift myself, even though I'm a bear, to wake up at 6 a.m. So there are things where, again, it's just a starting point. It's a framework. It's not down to it. There is science behind it, but it's also the fact that there is wiggle room, and it depends on you. So another key definition I want us just to understand is time blocking is then now just blocking, so putting it into smaller segments. If you're looking over a day, like into half hour increments, I work better with those. I know there are a lot of people who say if you can get it down to the 15-minute increments or even 5-minute increments, you can be highly productive. I think that works for certain individuals. For me, that adds a lot of pressure, actually. So just balancing that, I like to work in half hour and hour increments where possible, and 15 if I know I can get it done, or 5 if necessary. And your productivity cycle is really just enabling a rhythm, right, of repeatable actions. So, and just know that for me, what I do during the week is not the same thing that I do on the weekend. So, some people can do it every single day the same way. I'm definitely not like that. I can have a very scheduled Monday through Friday, but then partially for my sanity and creativity, I actually like to leave my weekends relatively unscheduled. And so you'll see that even though, yes, I am a founder, I do work a lot. Saturdays are my no work days, absolutely no work days. And then Sundays, I still don't even put it on my calendar. I will do it when I feel like it, typically in the afternoon after I had Sunday morning coffee. So, again, this is just to provide you that foundation. So, and why do I even care about this, or why do we even do this? Well, I think you probably found, work expands the time that you give it. So Josh Spector I came across him, and I think in a morning brew, and there's a link down there, but he has really interesting 1-sentence productivity tips. And so some of them are pretty harsh. Some of them are interesting, but I find that if my mind is wandering and I just can't get myself into it, I'll go to this website. And so, he has the link. We have the link for Medium. Definitely highly recommend it. I think it's just at least gets you back in the game. So why do I even talk about chronotypes to begin with? So you'll have seen over especially the last 4 years, the articles from Dr. Michael Brous. He's known as a sleep doctor. So there's a lot of science behind this book that he's written, The Power of One, and he's written more books since then. But basically what they recognize, he mainly studied for the Academy of Medicine to identify sleep disorders. He's been in everything on Oprah and CNN, but he's basically identified 4 different chronotypes, typically. But what we'll talk about is, um, and what we'll talk about is one, if you're hybrid or you're in transition, but he also talks about in this book, when is the best time to eat lunch, have sex, write about a novel, or doing thinking time, or even sharing ideas. And so you will have seen articles like this Business Insider one, where, if you've taken the chronotype quiz, you'll have been listed a dolphin, lion, bear, or wolf. And actually, Algerlyn, do we have a rough percentage?
We had the majority when we did the quiz earlier in the week. There were more bears,
Yeah,
but we have the poll live, so we can see what we're at today.
that would be great. So if you guys can quickly just answer. Typically, he found that anywhere from 10 to 15% of people are dolphins, so they're really light sleepers, and they actually typically have more insomnia. Lions are early birds, but they fatigue early in the morning. Another 15%. Majority of the world is based around bears, and I am one of them. But I would say I'm always in transition, typically based upon month on month. And then wolves are night owls, and they're pretty much just most active during the evening. We have a lot more dolphins than I thought. So almost pretty on point, in terms of percentages. All right. So what I want you to think about is, if you have a piece of paper, I'm hoping that you do, if not on your laptop, just identify your patterns during the day, a week, even a month. So how many hours do you need to sleep for the best sleep? And when does that typically happen? When are you most creative? And when can you intensely think or versus, just execute or talk? So for example, I need my mornings to strategically think. And then I typically book meetings in between 3 and 5. And then if I need to execute anything else, that'll be post lunch, for example. Another thing to think about is, when am I physically, mentally, emotionally high or low? So in the morning, it takes about an hour for myself to actually get up. But then I'm on a high until roughly about 2:30 or 3. Then I'm on a low on all cylinders, right? So that's when I'm okay to speak with other people, because for me, I enjoy that. But it's just understanding your highs and lows throughout the day. So just quickly jot that down. And then also, how long do you need to reboot? One, and then is there any way that you can quickly reboot? So what I mean by, quick little breaks throughout the day, when are those, 15 minutes? Do you do a quick walk? Do you meditate? And then for me, it's, well, if I have a lot of work to do, I will take a 2-hour break for dinner and exercise, or sort of just wind down time. And then I can do work again from 8 to basically 10 or 11 at night. So if you need to catch your big second wind, how long does that take, and when is that normally best? Now that you've written that down, I know this will be really formed by, what are your priorities? So the reason why I ask this question is the fact that as long as I've been a consultant and being an entrepreneur, I am pretty good about being regimented, but I have to use an acronym to actually anchor my priorities. And many of you who know me know I swear by this one. It's called BUILD. So B is for body, U is for emotionally mental wellness, I is for income or income related, so work. L is love and relationships of any type. So that includes like business partners, just any kind of connections. And then D is development. And I typically use that during the week, right? And then on my weekends, it really is much. I let go, and I'm able to just want to take care of my downtime. So a lot of the B and the U dominate. So just listing those out for you. And then within each area, are there any sort of big deadlines that you have this upcoming week? Any agreements, commitments? And what I want you to really focus on are like the big ticket items. So I know, just if you were to get one thing done today, or 5 things done this week, what would they be? Because a lot of us spend a lot of time on the small ticket items like emails, things like that. I'm not saying they're not important, but a lot of it is around building priority so that you can create your own space, as well as, I would say, your own boundaries, not only with just work, but also with people around you, that is healthy. Actually, I need to send through the link. So the reason being is this: Harvard just sent through an article around why people burn out, and this is why we want to have or understand a productivity cycle so we don't have burnout. And one of them is really the fact that the loss of control in time, or loss of control. So this is help address one of these areas that they listed. So I will remember to send that through so you guys can read that. It's a really good article. And then there's a whole other section around, all right, so I've jotted these things down, but what do I need to be successful? Right? So, and then this is where it gets tricky. If you have children, if you have a spouse, like this is where, how can I build an environment that helps encourage my productivity cycle? And yes, there'll be compromises, but you'll be thinking through that. So, what are you currently struggling with right now? Like, what kind of environment do you need? So for me to work, I need to be basically in a box. But outside of that, if I have calls or whatever, then I can be around other people, or my downtime. Even on the weekends, I like being out in nature. Environments are really key on how we are productive. And I know that COVID has brought the highlight of how you can rearrange your home. We have a couple posts on Project Untype on that. But also, how can you use other environments to help cultivate your cycle? Another thing is, can I batch tasks? So there are a couple of times during the day that I will look at emails. For example, lunchtime, and then 6 or 7 p.m. I try not to touch my email inbox, because that's then other people pulling you into what they need you to do and can take you off of your priority for today. So focus on the one thing for today, and I try to get that done in the morning. Again, thinking about your breaks, what techniques work for you for those breaks, whether it's meditation, running. And then for me, a big question is, well, how often do I need to work out? So when you take a look at my calendar at the end of the session, you'll see them in red. And that's because it's a priority for me. So my personality type, the intensity of working, it's cathartic for me. And that's why I'll have them at least 3 or 4 times a week. And then I'll try to just put in walks in the beginning of the day just to start, my brain going. And then, is there anything else, or are there other people who can support you in this? So can you talk to your partner to say, this is what I've been thinking, this is what I need, or any other, other family members. And I think this is a big one that people don't talk about, is how often do I need to communicate this? I would say I'm great when I'm on about communication, but when I don't want to talk to anyone, I call them dark retreats, and Algernon knows about this. I won't talk to anyone for like a good day, right? But I need to let other people know what's happening, or else their expectations on me will start being in conflict in terms of what I need. So if you can jot those things down, I think that's a great way for us to then go into some small group sessions. So, and why is this? Well, they've done many studies, and Daniel Kahneman, the writer, you probably will know him from the book Thinking Fast and Slow, but he's actually a Nobel Prize winner around this concept that every person has a limit in the way that they can think. So that really makes you a scarce resource. And for someone like me who's a giver, that was probably one of the key ideas that I really have to just sit in, because of the fact that I feel like I can do everything. You want to do everything, and the matter of fact is you can't. But what I want to do is make sure that whatever I do has a big impact. And so this for me is a really key concept in, thinking fast and slow. It revolves around this, but he did some work in the early 2000s. So definitely suggest you look him up. And the reason why I also say this is I think we hate saying no to people. And a lot of it has to do with, you don't want to disappoint, you think you have the ability, but I really encourage you to say no if it doesn't align to your vision or goals. So Algernon has put in a question up. So I'm going to actually fill it out as well. On how often do you really say no? Like, take the last week or the last month. How often have you said no to anyone? %10 of the time. I thought about that because I also fall into that group. And for me, that's okay. But for other people, I think for the rest of this audience, you may need to say it more often. I'm not saying that it should be 0. I'm not saying it should be 50%. It's about just being really proactive and thinking about the value of no means you protecting your space and also creating that boundary that's healthy for you and anybody who's around you. So what I'm going to ask us to do is now you guys have certain ideas, is I would like for you guys just to talk in groups, if you guys have key questions, or key issues or things that you are just like, well, I know I have this, but I don't know exactly how to approach it. I always think that any brain that's more than one is better. So would love for Algernon to split you guys off.
So the breakout rooms did not get set up before
Okay.
this, so I apologize. But we are a group of like 15, 16 today.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's still okay to, do some sharing. And of course, share if you're comfortable.
Yeah. So does anybody have, then we'll just take this time to, does anybody have questions around issues or, what we've covered up to this point?
I'd love to hear others share in terms of the question around like energetic alignment. Like, this is one that I've been playing a lot with myself. And if there's anybody else besides me and Rachel who are bears in the room who have, kind of determined their energetic alignment, I'd be curious to hear others share what's working for them.
Hi, Cecily. So I'm a bear too, apparently. So just with regards to sleep, like I'm really trying to get enough sleep, and I've been really struggling with not reading my phone right before I go to bed. I found even if I read on my phone and I put it down and then I read a book and I get tired that way, I have a better night's sleep, like way better night's sleep than if I'm on my phone. So, but I'm like an addict, so I'm always like mentally trying to like put it down. But I find that really helps if I could just put that down, and yeah, that works for me when I can manage to do it.
And how much sleep do you need? So I know they typically said it's like 7.5 hours. For me, it's 7. I'm really good if I can get to sleep by 11 and I wake up by 6. But I've had to train myself, just like what you were saying, right? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I kind of don't know because my sleep is so erratic, because sometimes I would wake up at 3 in the morning and stay awake for 2 hours and then go back to sleep. It's like a mess. So, but I think it's more like 8 hours where I get probably like 6 to 7.5 hours, but I think it's 8 because I had 8 last night and I feel great today.
Some other things that I found that have helped me in my sleep, and I was again just talking to Eldrillin this morning, is looking at your vitamin intake. So there are a couple things I've taken to help my immunity and or gain. They have an immunity supplement, and something you can buy at Costco. Another one is just some of the gummies that have vitamin D in particular, because it helps. That actually really does help regulate your sleep. And what I found is when I take that twice a day, and either I do a little bit of walking or I exercise, my sleep quality is significantly better, because I do still have a couple of those nights, like you're mentioning, Cecily, where I will wake up at 5 a.m. or 3 a.m. and I'll try and read something so I can fall asleep again. But my sleep quality is really poor. So definitely that's what's helped me. I don't know, Madeline or Algernon, anything else that's helped you in terms of improve your quality of sleep?
I'll go. My big one that has really helped is what Cecily was describing. So reading a book, and I have taken advantage of all of the the wind down features that are on my phone that like make the screen go black by a certain time, and that's enough to like, I don't know, make it less mentally exciting to like scroll an app or something, because it turns my phone all black and white basically. I still haven't gotten to the point. I know a lot of people have said like you should really charge your phone like outside of your bedroom, and I'm like, that would be nice someday. But that's, you know, that's as far as I've gotten is moving towards a book. And then another thing for me is if I can take like 5 minutes or more to do a little bit of like a elaborate skincare ritual. There's something about like that touch and that physical experience for me, because I spend so much time like in service of others and taking care of my kids and being on a computer, that to have something that's just like a moment for myself really helps wind down my brain.
As someone that is like, I would call myself a hybrid of a lion and a wolf. I will keep going and going and going, and like I can go 24 hours without sleep, but it's not necessarily good for my health. I know that I feel really good when I can at least get like 5 hours of sleep, and to get me there, because my mind is like constantly going, I need to establish the routine. And so the routine that helps me is like the skincare of just like pampering myself, and then either like moving my body, whether it's stretching or just like doing breathing exercises, and then going in my room and saying good night Google, and then Google plays me nature sounds and helps me fall asleep, and I am like out within like minutes. So yeah, Google is my buddy when I need to go to bed.
Nice.
I love that. Are there others that want to share in terms of finding these routines and habits that help them wind down? Because I love hearing other people's routines.
I'll speak up. I know for me a big thing that I cut out has been alcohol, because I found the times that I would have a drink, you know, to relax, my quality of sleep versus the times when I didn't. So I ended up just saying goodbye to alcohol, and that's been a big thing. But routine, I'll agree with the others, has been a big thing. So I use my Beautify app, and I'll have one of my boys pick a meditation for us to listen to together. And then I'll do a journal. I got a Silk and Sonder subscription, so that's been kind of fun to versus the blank journal. It takes you through different steps to fill out. And then I'll read, and that's my routine. And then I'll put the phone into the bathroom to charge before I go to bed. So it's sort of in my room, but at least it's in another place to charge, not next to me on the bed. And that's been pretty good. I've noticed really good quality sleep, and I need at least 8 or more hours of sleep. So.
And Angela, what was your chronotype out of curiosity?
I was a bear.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to share routines that are working for them?
I'll share. I I find usually like when I shower, sometimes a lot of times it like relaxes me more. So I do that a lot at night. And then I got in the habit from my son actually. White noise helps me relax more, like the ocean, but it's always been, that's like my place that I've always found to be peaceful and calming for me in general, to be by the water. So it makes sense. And we actually do, we use an app called Moshi. It's for kids, but it actually, I think there are adult sections, but it has like meditations and stories, but it's like calming. And even though I listen to the kiddie content, it's still just nice to like listen in the dark to a story, and it relaxes me. And then I find myself more at ease to fall asleep.
I love this. I'm curious for all of us sharing apps and technology and tools. I should definitely be putting these in the chat as well, because I'm definitely curious to check them out. There was another one too, Rachel, in the chat. Gina shared, I don't have trouble falling asleep. It's the staying asleep that's the problem. I often wake up around 3 a.m. and it takes another 2 hours to fall back asleep. Curious what you'd say there.
Well, okay, so there's a couple of things, and one is linked to alcohol and actually sugar in general. So having sugar before you go to sleep actually disrupts your sleep. The way that your body metabolizes it, and there are a couple of studies that have been done on this, it doesn't enable you to go into deep REM. So that might be one of the things. So powering through sleep. Another trick you can try, and people think it's actually counteractive, is taking a shot of espresso just right before you go to bed. And it can seem like that, but it actually can power you. Once your body is in the sleep state, it can actually power that through. That's what I do when I need naps, actually, is I'll take a shot of espresso to power my nap. And even though, yes, there is caffeine, it can also be utilized in a different way. So it doesn't need to be a full shot, but I think just a little bit of caffeine right before you go to bed, not like an hour before you go to bed, because then you're already awake and your body's already processing it. But if you can get it so that your body is processing it when you're sleeping, it can also help. So those are a couple of things I would say. Now, the comment on the shower. So this is also another thing where there are some other studies around the body difference in temperature. So from showering, going from hot to like cold can actually help you power your body to sleep in a deeper state. So that's also another thing I would suggest thinking about is I actually sleep better in the cold. I can't sleep in the hot. Actually, if it's hot, I actually get poor sleep. So that would be another thing I would ask Gina, to consider is, what is the temperature of your room? Is it optimal for you to sleep?
I think studies say that like optimal is like 60 to 65 for really good sleep.
Yeah, I'm definitely more like probably like a 62. I mean, I'm not exact because I actually don't have the heater on, even though it's winter. I just have blankets and then that's it.
Mindy, you had an important share. Will you share it out loud?
Hi, everybody. Well, those of us who are perimenopause, menopausal, it's hormonal.
Yep.
Just is. And that you can figure out herbs that you're going to be taking or whatever you're going to do for all that stuff. But the sleep issues and waking up and insomnia, it's just it's part of the joy of this time.
Well, and on that note as well, it's only just recently that doctors acknowledged it as a different stage to menopause. I think, and so my sister's actually a big part of this, where she's told her doctor for years, and there's no time lapse, right? It can vary from 5 years. Some people, for my sister, I think it's about almost 8 years that she's been in perimenopause. And so that's where in that world, if it's more about hormones, then it's really about exercise and diet, and then also what can you supplement to actually help the fluctuation. There are a little bit more limited tools, but that's where my sister, she's the one who got me on this immunity powder from Orgain, where she's found she's gotten better sleep. And just being able to even do like an hour walking as well has helped regulate some of that cycling. So I know it's not a foolproof solution, but definitely for my sister, when she looked at just her health and trying to readjust that portion of it, it's that's a big portion of what she can control. Anything else is, it happens what happens. And so therefore for her, it's about then the emotional support of other people, just being able to talk about it so you don't feel alone. And then also, just accepting that you're going through it. So, but there are definitely a couple of platforms that I need to list this, around perimenopause that I can send through Madeline and Algerlyn to also just, connect and create community and also share information.
I love that. Thank you, Rachel.
No worries.
Awesome. Any other shares? There was, another point that Rachel made that I really wanted to call into conversation is the ways in which we are asking for support of others to help us live out these routines and rituals. This is something I really struggle with personally. So maybe this is a selfish ask, but Rachel mentioned talking to family or partners so that you can have a routine that works for you and be supported by the others around you. And I'm curious to know if anyone has any shares in terms of how they're working with their household to make sure that the routine works for your individual well-being. Because I don't know, I feel like during COVID, any sense of routine just has gone by the wayside. And so curious to know if anyone has a share there.
Yeah, I do. I'm Melanie. Nice to meet everyone today. So I learned this actually from my partner. He's so much better at setting boundaries and also he's very routine oriented, where I come from more this, flowy, feminine, creative side that, it's like, oh, I feel like doing this. And today I'm like this and tomorrow I'm like that. And every morning since I've met him, he gets up and he has his coffee and toast and reads and looks out the window at the view like an old man, really, like what I consider to be an old man. And so at first I was like, I don't know about this. And then I started joining him in that routine and realizing that doing that one thing every day really helps. So I've learned from him. And then also we have 2 teenage kids. So then being able to express to them what we need and also hearing them express what they need, because as they're growing older, it's less about, you are going to do this under my schedule as a parent, to listening to their own kind of cycles and needs. And so, yeah, like I know my daughter is introverted. She needs some downtime after school. Like there's no way that I'm going to be able to schedule something right after school. Alex needs his morning hour where nobody talks to him about anything important. And so I'm learning to figure out, what everyone else around me is needing. And I'm still trying to figure out what I need. So.
Well, thanks, Melanie, for that. Yeah, so boundaries are really important. And I think Brene Brown says it best. The most loving people she has found are the people who actually have strong boundaries. And it's because they can, they have the ability to take care of themselves and therefore extend their love and their talents and creativity and, anything else they can offer to other people willingly, right? Because I think when we don't have boundaries, that's where resentment can come in, or exhaustion, or the feeling loss of control. So Brene Brown is also another big one for me, in terms of, people I read, or just even watching her YouTube video around this. It's I think a 15-minute snippet around just boundaries. And especially with COVID, that has been one of my key anchors, whether it's with my team, my flatmate, and even my family. So other shares are, oh, yeah.
Hi, so I'm very, almost like a guy, very regimented of my day. And everyone in my family knows I get up early, even on weekends, because I like to read. I like to have quiet time. I have a whole ritual before I start work. And then I poop out at like 10. I'm done. So my partner, she likes to be up till 11:30, but it's okay. We figured it all out, right? I'm a morning person. Now we have a dog and 3 kids. So I do the morning. She does everything else. You need me? Yeah, you can come in. Anyways, but my real question is about, now I have a dog and a kid in here. But my real question is, how do I regulate myself when it's work time, right? Because I'm a lion. I'm so great at the morning, but to really stick to, well, the morning I need for my thinking time, planning time, all that. And then clients maybe push later when it's a different type of a thought process.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm struggling with, because I go. I know what times are, but I don't, if clients want to see me in the morning or, see me, whatever, Zoom, and then I want to be available, and I have a hard time structuring, like, if I know I'm best at this time, how do I plan my day so that I'm being the most productive when my energy and creativity are highest?
Yeah, so this is another part of what I've had to find for myself is actually I'll agree to if I need, for some team meetings, I will just do it, but that's because I'm the CEO, I'm running a company. But if we're talking about clients or even just for yourself, I will block off certain days that I won't still. So you try to force everybody to use Calendly. That's what I do. And those show my open spots of times I'm willing to meet. So for clients who need to meet in the morning, I will, typically have Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and then Fridays are actually good days for me because I like to then take the afternoon to really work into the weekend, and I don't have to be stopped by some meeting. So this is where there's a bit of a compromise where, again, it's not going to be every day, but maybe every week. There's a couple days each week that you can do morning, and then offer, for me, I still typically offer in between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6 meetings as well as a consistency. So it buys me, if over a course of like a Monday to, I would say actually my Wednesdays and Thursdays are a little bit better. Like Wednesday, Thursday, where if I have the meetings in the morning, then I have Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning to myself to work. And then Thursday afternoons, I have meetings, and Friday mornings, I have meetings. Things like that. Just creating pockets that are a little bit consistent. I think you can still do that, even if it's just once or twice a week, because definitely for my sanity's sake, if I always feel like I'm failing, again, you're then pushing on the sense of loss of control in some shape or manner that adds to burnout. We want to be able to scroll that back. So that's how I have tackled that problem.
Thank you.
I resonate a lot with that same share, Mindy, because for me, like, we had recognized that I was, trying to hold space in my calendar in the morning because, with different time zones and things like that, that was when most people could meet. But the result was, even if my whole afternoon was wide open, I was so burned out by all the meetings by that point that in the afternoon, any sort of like creative thinking or strategy-based work, just, it wasn't possible. And so I really like this idea, Rachel, of like having a day where it's basically like a full day in a sense, where you'd have the afternoon open and then the following morning, because you can continue to kind of find that flow as opposed to, jumping right back into a morning's worth of meetings back to back.
Yeah. My Mondays and Tuesdays are really ugly. Wednesdays, Thursdays are a little bit more spare on the meetings, but that I do less. It really is more. And Fridays, then I resume. So again, this is more about finding your baseline. So I'm hoping for you, Mindy, that there are pockets where you can create even a course of 2 days where it's just for you to be able to reset and just get into your work. Other questions, other like tips that other people have been used as well that have been shared?
Rachel, I don't know if you want to share, but like in terms of not just, okay, so we have our day-to-day work and our meetings that we have to take care of, and like we understand our chronotypes. And this may not be relevant for some of the people in the workshop, but like talking about cycles too, and like planning your weeks and days based off of your cycle if you have a consistent one.
Yes. So I'm a big fan, and how I came across this was actually Luna Endurance. It's one of our partnerships where you can leverage your cycle to work out better. And so it's not all about just doing HIIT classes all the time. Your body has the ability to burn fat versus glycogen, so which is your carbohydrates, better at different times. I will send you guys an article around that, because it really has to do as well where being body aware, being self-aware are going to be really important into understanding your productivity over a course of a month. So I would say I do much better thinking, I would say 2 weeks before my period, and the intensity of the work. And this is when I do my hit. This is when I do, I would say, more the high impact pieces. But when I'm, the week before my period and my period, I would say I do more low impact exercises, but I'm also more mentally gentle with myself. So I still commit to my calendar, but I understand the fact that where possible, and this is a big one, where possible, I try not to be really intense on my meeting schedule, for example. I also typically like my dark retreats during that time. So when I say dark retreat, I like to go in a room for like a day, have it all blacked out. I barely even use my phone. I actually just have it there for music only. And it's all dark, and I have aromatherapy, and I basically just sleep wherever and wake up the way I want to, and just veg out. And they say the more intense your schedule is, the more that you need these type of blackout phases or dark retreats. So I highly recommend them, and they don't have to be full day. You can even do it for like an hour, 2 hours. It's fine. But being able to leverage that just desensitization, so it's just everything is calm for you, I think also has helped. But yeah, I can send through an article that explains a little bit more about that, and there's the science behind it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then Angela, if you're open to, I would love to learn more about this biorhythm calculator that you mentioned in the chat. Are you open to sharing about that?
Yeah, it was something I learned about a couple years ago from an older gentleman that I work with. He's a lawyer, and we were having a random conversation around the water cooler. And he's telling me of this biorhythms that it was used back in the days for manufacturing and building cars, and they would look at each of the workers' biorhythm, and if their physical state was like really low or negative, then they would put them on a different type of area in the manufacturing spot so that you could decrease the number of accidents that could happen. And he told me this book he found at a garage sale, and he said, oh, there's apps for it. And I looked at it, and there's a biorhythm calculator, and you enter in your birth date, and the time you were born is even better. And then it shows you just based on like today's date, my physical state's 100%. So I'm going to be awesome, and I'm going to probably do a wonderful trail run. My emotional state's negative 94%. So that probably explains why I may get teary at a Taylor Swift song. And then intellectual state's 100%. So great time to present something. So it's just like a cycle type thing. And then you can just, based on the day, and it'll go into explanation, but it's just kind of an interesting data point. I remember one day I said a couple things I shouldn't have said, and then I looked back and I was like, oh crap, yeah, I was at negative 100% intellectual that day. So I don't know, it's like with anything, right? But it's been fun.
And on that note, I actually use one. It's more astrology based, but it's called Nebula, and it does the biorhythm graph for you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as you said, it's a data point. Now, for me, what it just raises, it's just the awareness, right? Because we typically just forget about these things as we get into work or driving kids or living life. And that's my takeaway when I use these apps. Is it's a reminder just to gently check myself on how I'm actually truly feeling, and whether or not it's right, fine, that's great. But it's just more of a, okay, what are you really feeling physically, emotionally, mentally? So I think that's great.
Rachel, we have one question. So Sarah says, my dream to have a full day dark retreat. She did a sensory deprivation tank when she was pregnant. It was amazing. And then Melanie is asking, when in your cycle do you prefer dark retreats?
I prefer them the week of my period. So that's when my body feels strained. That's when I would say all cylinders are a lot lower. I would say I'm typically better EQ wise, though, in terms of being able to take the time to speak and think through key considerations or my relationships, right? As a result. So, there's pros and cons, but just understanding that difference. So for me, it's normally my week of my period, but again, that's something you'll have to test out for yourself. And it's towards the end of the period, actually. So I'm on a 28-day cycle, so it's like clockwork. But yeah, so it's my 7th or 8th day.
Awesome. We're at 10:50. Do you want to keep doing share, or do you have additional?
Yeah. So if people don't have other questions, I can just quickly go through my last few slides, and then we can also take questions again. So, but thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. I really enjoyed hearing your different tips, but also some key concerns, because I think, as we all know, everybody's has felt this at some point in time, if not now. So a couple of things that definitely has helped me remain motivated in the schedule is starting the day with gratitude can make you happier. So Harvard's done their own positive psychology research, and it's associated inconsistently with greater happiness. So there's different things that you can do. If you're an auditory learner, Happiness Lab podcast, they have that. I use the 5-minute gratitude app. There's a link there. It's for free. It's also very quick. And the reason why I like it, it's 5 different questions, and you just, can do a couple of words each. It doesn't have to be so specific, but it also enables you to take a picture of your day. And so it's almost like a photo journal reminder of myself, where it's like, oh yeah, I did that. That's great. And so I'll take 2 minutes in the morning just to fill out the first half. And then the second half of it, I'll do right before I go to bed, which is about being reflective. So typically the question is, what did you accomplish today? And then how could what could have been done better? And so it's just being able to go through that exercise. Some people don't like that, which is fine. You just have a gratitude jar. So something good happens, you just pop it in, gratitude letters. And then there's a link. I think there's like 100 or anywhere from 40 to 100 ways that I've added here on the more ways section. So starting with gratitude, I think definitely helps my mindset in the morning. Second thing is, how do you best learn? So 65% of people are visual learners. So I'm one of them. I like to use Miro, which is this online tool where you can mind map and whiteboard. I journal, or even for me, it's like if there's printer paper around, I'm on it. I prefer that than typing. So I learn best by that method, but then at least 8 people in this audience, learn through other methods like auditory learning. So you prefer podcasts, audibles, webinars, lectures, just listening, music. So just being able to understand that if you're even an auditory or kinesthetic learner, that when you do your tasks, and if it's a learning task, just being able to incorporate these elements for yourself, right, to be more effective, but I think also more enjoyable. And then kinesthetic learners are people who need to actually build things or do things and experience or try things out and engaging with others. So that's another thing that has helped me. So in addition to learning, I like to read, but although I would love to read all these long, these 200, 300 pages books, I actually use Blinkist in the morning as well to just give me sort of the key highlights, just so that I can personally grow, even if it's 15 minutes every day. Speaking of time, so another big thing to note is that being fully engaged in the task in front of you is really important. So University of California, they say on average, it takes you about 23 minutes to get back into a task once you've pulled away. Now you're like, oh, that's okay. But over a course of a day, that can be anywhere from 1 to 3 hours of where you're just trying to get back into the task instead of actually doing it. So just understanding that, in terms of the number of switches in a day of either multitasking or the number of tasks that you need to do. That's why a lot of people say, focus on the one big thing you need to get done, right? Then everything is a lot easier and falls away. There are a couple of things that if you do get pulled away from a task that help. They say it's like a muscle. You have to will yourself back into it. I would say the Instagram CEOs, he basically just said, they use the it will only take 5 minutes trick. And actually for me, that is more of a mental mindset reframe. so that it doesn't seem like a huge task mentally, that it's just something that's quick. And so you can just get into it. And really for me, the reason why productivity cycle, it's being able to commit to your timeline, but also understanding your change impact. I have to constantly change my schedule every day. But when I do it by a calendar, for me, that means I visually understand what I'm giving up or what I'm shifting around. And that really is just more about the awareness portion. You don't have to do it that way. Again, just find a way that works for you. But just understanding that shift that has an impact on you because you are a scarce resource. So with that, I'm gonna quickly, let me see if I can get this to work. Since the screenshot on Canva wasn't working, I'm actually gonna, let me know if you guys can see this. So my days typically start during the week, with an hour to myself. I try to walk or do some kind of running in the morning. You'll see blocks of time where I say my thinking time, and that's my reminder where I can strategically think the best. And you'll see, things scheduled in. So like today, I've had many meetings before. The red pieces are big pieces for me. And it's because of the fact that if I don't work out, I typically find like I feel like a horrible human being. I'm not effective. My EQ's off, everything. So I put those in red. And so I use a color-coded system to just help mentally remind me what's important to me. Emails are typically in between 6 and 7. And then talking about wind down time, that's a red in between 10 and 11. So I try to get off my phone. I'll put on music if I can. So again, this isn't perfect, but you also see on my weekends, I barely have anything on purpose. And that gives me I need creativity, and I actually need to feel like it's play to enjoy my week as well. So the more that you can make work feeling like play or feel like play, the better. And so in my downtime, there are things like I need to read sci-fi, fantasy, anything that's not necessarily nonfiction, because of the fact that it still enables my mind on possibilities. So just finding things for you that work that way. But yeah, that's just a glimpse into my calendar. And then with that, hopefully with this session, you guys have sort of built core or found spots in your calendar that's changed a little bit. Let's just go. Oops. Yep, so I'll take some more questions. If you want to connect, please reach out. The barcodes there is my LinkedIn. So please feel free to add me, I'll respond. And then also, if you liked a couple of things that we've done today, and there'll be some articles, they're actually from my own startup called Project Untaboo. So feel free to follow us on Instagram.
Awesome. Who else has questions or shares? Curious to know how calendars compare to the one that Rachel showed. Who uses color coordination? Who's got time blocks similar to this? Awesome. We've got a last poll question popped up here on the screen. And if you have questions, comments, feedback, throw those in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself to share.
While the poll is happening, I'll just share that I'm very similar to Rachel with my calendar management. I do a lot of color coding, but for me instead, my red is priority work. And what that priority work is like stuff that must get done during that time, because our days can get bogged down with tons of meetings and everything. So it's important to block out that time to actually get work done. But yeah, color coding has been very essential for me too.
Aw. I'm really glad to see the results. On that note, actually, and I'll tell you the why. Well, it goes back to my red. It goes back to that BUILD acronym. So B is first. If I don't take care of my body, everything goes off. So that's why mine is red. But again,
Rachel, can
find
you say what the BUILD acronym is again?
yeah, so build is body. U is yourself, so mentally, emotionally, taking care of your EQ. I is income related, so work. L is love and relationships of any sort, and then D is personal, development, so personal development. So for me, I know that if I don't get my taking care of my body, I can physically see it within a day, just how bad everything else lags. And so if you can find an acronym that accurately reflects your priorities and it's easy for you to just fall back into, I think that also has helped me create the boundaries necessary. And that's why, in my color coding, things are a little bit different as well.
I have a question that I want to ask of the community, because there were some people who put an answer better than 10%, and I want to know your secrets. The saying no piece. We talked about boundaries a little bit, but saying no is a really hard muscle to build. And anybody who was doing better than 10% in terms of saying no to things, I'm curious to know the mentality or habits that have helped you get to that point.
So I was one of those people. I think, in my personal life, like with school and those political things, town things, like I can say no quite easily. But, after I answered that question, I realized work-wise, it's a little more difficult for me. But I found that when I do block time and I do have things scheduled, if somebody asks me for something sooner or to complete something, I can say, well, no, I'm booked until, this date, which really helps. Like, it's like you said, when you have good boundaries, you're not resentful or anything like that. And it gives you that confidence and that kind of more feeling of competence that, I'm going to say no. I mean, I can do it later or whatever, or even client wise, we're like looking at saying no to some clients, which scares me, but we don't have the capacity right now. So that's also something like, we want to deliver good work, and we're going to have to increase the capacity before we can say yes to those things. So I think it's usually a no, but maybe later.
And actually, that's a great phrase, right? Because if you find it really hard to give it a hard no, right, the maybe later part is like, I can consider it later. And if you have a strong relationship with this person as well, if you don't want to feel like a no would completely sort of, cut them off a bit, or, get them a little bit mussed. I think that's also another mental reframing. You're just like, no, not right now. And then see where that goes, right? Because a lot of it, and this is through my consulting work, a lot of clients will say that's urgent, and then you say, why and what's the timeline behind it, and you dig a little further and you realize it's not really an emergency, and therefore you can say, okay, so what's the timeline? And it's like, well, I can get it done, I just need it really by this week, and this is the critical path, this is the date. Okay, I can deal with that, I can give you this, and you sort of build a plan around that, right? Mm-hmm. And then similarly, like as a client, I like to think everybody in my life as partners. So Aljalyn knows this as well, that whether in any capacity, even if you're working for me, I really see it as a partnership, and I like to have that kind of conversation. So I think that definitely helps well. If mentally that's such a big cliff for you, then that might be the next jump.
Yeah, and I just want to add that when providers like vendors try to contact me to schedule time, if I don't have the time or even the bandwidth to consider it, I'll just say, please ping me in April, or the end of the third week of April. And then they say, sure, that's on them. If they want to contact me then that's great.
Yeah, fully supportive of that. LinkedIn has gotten really busy. I think everybody knows what that's like. Yeah, if you put the onus back on them as well, I think that helps you a lot. It's just trying to understand how much you can manage and what you can control. So I think that's a great ad, Cecily.
I like the share from Erin McDonald. I've gotten a lot better at saying no, just recognizing that offering an alternative is good enough. I used to squeeze everything in, and I did less quality of work because of that. So yeah, being able to make that was definitely helpful there. And then Lucinda said, I really appreciate when people in my life say no. It's clear communication, it's honest, and they won't feel as strained because of something I've asked them to do.
Yep. No, I mean, both of them are great. Like, I think alternative is there's a different pathway, but you know, there are times where you just literally have to say no. And a lot of it is, it depends on your relationship with that person and the boundaries that you've set with that person. And a lot of it is managing the expectations of other people to create that space for yourself so you can do you. So listen, I think that's great, Erin. Yeah, completely agree.
Something that has helped me with like boundaries and balance is the spoon spoon analogy is like you only have so many spoons to give, and you need to make sure that you have one for yourself to like be able to feed yourself, and like whatever that is, you need to feed yourself and pour into you. So that's something for, you know, visual learners. That's a good visual reminder of like, do you at least have one spoon in a hand for yourself so that you can feed yourself something? If not, then you need to like go on a dark retreat and recalibrate.
Any other shares, any other questions? I really enjoyed today's session. Thank you guys for participating. And again, hopefully you make slight adjustments to your schedule going forward that help you a little bit better.
Fantastic. Well, we'll keep an eye on the chat. But I just want to thank you, Rachel, so much for the time today. There's going to be so many different resources that we're going to be putting after this session into the member portal as well as the Slack channel. Rachel's got a wealth of articles to share with us too that can offer further ideas and inspiration. And I also wanted to just let you all know we're going to be talking about here in the coming weeks another evolution of the community is we're going to be doing a community collaboration session where we can get everyone on a call and get a chance for people to meet each other one-to-one. We've got a lot of new members this month, and so we want to create space for you all to get introduced to each other, to talk about the work that you do, explore, you know, who are the people that you're looking to connect with this year in the areas that you're hoping to grow. So please, if you're not already connected to Slack or you need any help getting in there, check in with us because we're going to be sharing some information about that upcoming community collaboration moment as well. But there are just some wonderful thank yous coming to Rachel in the chat. So if you have any last questions, feel free to share them now. But otherwise, we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, and I would like to thank both Aljalyn and Melvin for having me as well. So this was a team effort. Really, it is. I always think everything's a team effort. I can never do anything by myself, truly. So, and also for you guys just having me and giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in Slack and keep an eye out for that community collaboration update. All right. Bye, y'all.